Today's topic is persuasive writing. And if you've got 5 minutes, I've got 5 tips to help you hone your skills for when you need them most. How competent are you at writing persuasively? Does your writing persuade someone to do something, to think something, to feel something? It doesn't matter what your main type of writing is, whether you write fiction, short fiction, long-form fiction, non-fiction, magazine articles, blog pieces. It doesn't matter at all what you write, but every once in a while, a writer needs to write persuasively. Not convinced? Let me give you a list of the times when writers need to write persuasively. Number 1, writing book queries to agents and/or publishers. You're trying to convince them of something, aren't you? Pitching magazine stories to editors. You're trying to persuade them. How about a cover letter for job applications? Writing web copy for your books on online retail sites? Creating online promotional materials for your work? Describing your work on your website, writing an opinion piece for a news outlet that enhances your reputation, making your point of view the focus of a nonfiction book or article. Now, I realize that it's possible you might not have given much thought to the fact that all of these, in fact, require persuasive writing skills. But that's okay, because one of the things that I've learned over the years for writing promotional pieces for organizations and individuals is that persuasive writing skills can be learned. Here are my 5 tips for improving your persuasive writing skills. Tip number 1, begin with an objective or 2. Now you need to write this down, and I mean it, you really need to write it down. And the objective or 2 that you have for your piece needs to focus on precisely what outcome you want from this piece. And here are some examples so you can see what I'm talking about. Here's number 1, to convince the agent that the work I'm proposing is too interesting to pass up, and he or she will be persuaded to offer to take me on as a client. Now, isn't that very specific? Very specific in terms of the outcome you want, who it is that you're focusing on, it's the agent, what you want them to do, and in the end, what decision you want them to make. Here's another example. To move a reader seeking a new book to buy this one. This is very clearly focused on getting a reader to do something, that is to click buy your book on a website, for example. This is the kind of writing that persuades people to do something, to buy something, to become one of your fans. Here's a third, to convince a magazine editor that I'm qualified to write the proposed article. Again, this one is very clear about who you're trying to focus on and what you want this person to do. Your focus is your credentials, and your focus reader is the editor of a magazine or perhaps a blog. Tip number 2, make your point up front. Don't bury the lead. Burying the lead is often used in news articles. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Here's an example. He was a well-known local musician. He could be found in a jazz cafe every Friday evening. We'll miss him. And then the second paragraph goes on to tell you that this person has died and who this person is. This is burying the lead. This is something that can be very annoying, actually, in a news story when people are listening to that lead or reading that lead and wanting to know who this story is really about. This is not something that you should do in persuasive writing, ever. Never beat around the bush. Get right to the point so the person reading what you're writing knows exactly what you're after. Tip number 3 is know your audience. This is key. I can't stress this enough. You cannot send the same query letter, you cannot send the same persuasive piece to a variety of different editors or agents, for example. You need to do your research, you need to know a great deal about them, and you need to make it specific to them. Obviously, you can have a bit of a template, you can have an overall kind of view, but you do need to personalize it to your reader. You do this by what we call aligning yourself with a specific reader. You take their side, you have to know what their side is first, and you have to use their language to a certain extent. Don't overdo it. Tip number 4, As often as possible, use facts to support your argument. If your argument is that you're the best person to be writing about something specific, whether it's on someone's blog as a guest blogger, or it's a newspaper piece, or it's a magazine article, then give them facts. Give them facts about your background. Give them some sense that you are credible. Never make statements like, this will be a bestseller, or everybody will like this. For example, if you said, this will be a bestseller, unless you have been a New York Times best-selling writer, then you don't really have much credibility when it comes to that. And in fact, if you were a New York Times best-selling writer, you probably wouldn't need to query an agent anyway. The bottom line here is that in order to be able to back things up with facts, you need facts about yourself, perhaps, if that's your objective, or you need to do some research. Tip number 5 is stay focused. For example, if you're writing an opinion piece or writing your side of a story for a newspaper or a blog, stick to that side of the argument. Stick to your point of view. If you're writing a query for a specific project, don't get sidetracked. Stick to that project that you're focusing on. And then at the end, you circle back to the beginning where you stated specifically in your lead what you wanted out of this query or this piece or this article. There's been a lot written about how to craft a persuasive argument, and I recommend that you do a little research on different kinds of persuasive presentations. But these are the 5 tips that I have for you that will start to improve your persuasive writing already, even if you don't understand the intricacies of persuasive argumentation. That's okay. That's for another time. Go ahead and write yourself a nice promotional piece. Talk to you soon. Subscribe to Write, Fix, Repeat, and maybe I can help you improve your writing knowledge and skills. 5 tips at a time.